So yesterday I mentioned background location tracking for React Native. And this was one of the issues I struggled with when I was creating my app for work. And the configuration issues are a challenge, and so is, I hope you guys don't see notifications when I get them on my phone. This is one reason I have a camera, like an actual camera, I suppose, because I tried making a video and then I got a phone call and the video stopped. And that's okay if I'm editing the video together, but when I'm just doing it in one 10-minute shot like that, any interruption can be devastating. Not really, not that dramatic, just kind of aggravating. Anyway, so background location tracking, there's configuration, but there's also the development stage, which it's harder to test whether it's working or working correctly before you launch it. It's very different than just web development, where you just run things in the browser and you can console log and all this stuff, you know. So first of all, Expo makes things pretty easy. If there are packages that Expo provides, the docs are pretty good and such, but like I said in my last video, you need to read the docs all the way through and not skip over little things that you think don't apply to you. That will help in the future. So first of all, you need to create a task manager, a background task manager, if you're doing background location tracking. And it makes a difference whether the app is foregrounded or backgrounded. Anyway, you can have different settings in the configuration, and one option is to set like a time interval for how often you want the location to be updated, or send the location to the API is what I was doing for the delivery drivers. You want to know where they are. Another option is to set like a distance interval, so time interval or distance interval. So if they're not moving, if they don't go anywhere, no update is sent. But if they move so far, however far you set it, then an update is sent. Now in development, Android Studio, you actually can set like a simulation of either going for a walk or going for a bike ride or driving on the highway, and then you can get the updates, you can show the updates happening through that simulation. And also on Expo, on your device, you can use an app to set a false location. So you can test it on Android devices as well in that way. But iOS, I didn't find anything like that, either through Xcode or through iOS devices for developers. How do you test background location tracking, see if it's working correctly? So when I was testing things with Android, it seemed like it was working. I was doing the time interval. But when I tried it in production, or tried like beta testing it on the device, the API, I mean the database, I got the results from the database and it was being updated like several times a second. Like, that is way too often. Like, what's going on? And I realized that's because I was using iOS. I was trying to test iOS there, but I had only successfully tested Android in development. And there it was. I finally found it. I was going through Stack Overflow and the GitHub and the Expo forums and trying to figure out what was going on. It definitely helped to realize that Android was working, because that meant to me that it was a configuration issue, not an issue with my code. My logic and everything was just fine. My implementation of the task manager, just fine. It was some kind of configuration issue that was the difference between Android and iOS. And that helped me isolate my problem, dig a little deeper into the docs and read them a little more carefully. A little fine details that I kind of scanned over before. And it turns out iOS does not support time interval. Not even a possibility. Once I figured that out, I was able to push a change and set a distance interval instead. And in order to test it, since you don't have a simulator for iOS that works, I ended up just going for a little drive. I drove, came back, checked the database, and sure enough, it was working. You could even tell where I was stuck in traffic because the updates weren't happening as often. And then that was another notification. It's my groceries are here. Yay! I order my groceries on Instacart. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. I go shopping on my phone. Beep, beep, beep. I want these. And then the groceries show up 2 hours later. It's magical. I love technology. So great. And that's a native app. I could totally do that. It's pretty complicated for one person, but it's okay. Someday I would love to make my own app that I could actually deploy to the App Store that other people can download and use. I think I've talked about this before, but it sounds amazing. This one was an enterprise app. So it's only being used in-house by the delivery drivers for Grasp. And yeah, so it's working. It's great to have it out there and real people using it. But I'd love to be able to, like, anyone could download it and use it, like my family and friends or anyone who's following me or whatever, just to be able to show it off, get suggestions and things. But anyway, so the background location tracking, I figured it out. All I had to do, but the debugging process was challenging. It was hard to narrow it down to isolate the problem to where is it. It's the Android versus iOS thing, and that same issue has come up in many areas, like the push notifications or even the styling library. Like in development, for example, I'm using React Native Paper, which is a styling library that's like material UI, material design for React Native. And I was using custom colors, custom theme, and it looked fine on Android, and it looked fine on iOS in development, but once it was in production, all my custom colors disappeared, and it was the default purple and teal. Like, purple and teal is not at all what the color scheme is for this company. So no one complained. I mean, colors don't affect functionality at all, at least, but I needed to figure it out. And once again, it ended up being that I'm using React Native Paper, which has custom theming, but I'm also using React Navigation, which also has custom theming. And there's a way to use them together where you do a combined theme, combine them together, and those themes get passed down pretty much through a theme provider. But I had to combine those themes, and then it was working well at all. Let's just say the docs are our friends. It's like reading a manual when you get some new piece of technology. It seems kind of boring and kind of a pain to read all the way through the manual. But if you do, then you become an expert in that device, in that technology. You come across things and you're not like, what the heck is going on here? You're like, oh, I read about that. I know what's going on. And you don't have to spend days trying to troubleshoot. So anyway, I'm becoming more and more of a fan of reading the docs thoroughly before even starting to do something. Yeah, speaking of which, I've got to read that owner's manual for the RV. It's definitely a must. 30 more seconds. I'm in my 10-minute. Okay, so I'm wearing a Digital Crafts t-shirt. She sent me one for free. Nat and I both have matching t-shirts because we gave a talk for Digital Crafts. That's the school that he went to learn web development. And I like the back too. Wait. Turn around. Get out of the way, chair. What does it say? Student, eat, sleep, code. There we go. That was kind of clever. I don't usually wear t-shirts, but it's laundry day. and it's comfortable. It's digital crafts, so there you go. Yeah, so that was good. Anyway, that's background location tracking, and we'll see what I talk about next. Someday I will talk about the RV, definitely, but I'm considering making a whole new channel just for RV stuff, so we'll see.